Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's meeting of the Healthy Living and Social Care Scrutiny Committee on the 10th of January 2023. May I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed via the internet, as well as recorded and the recording archived for future viewing. Please could all participants mute themselves when not speaking in order to avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking. If you wish to contribute in the debate this evening, please can you use the raise hand function at the top of your screen to alert the chair, Councillor Janice Charles. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. You can use the chat function to highlight any technical issues to Councillor Charles as chair or myself as the Democratic Services Officer. If you have any difficulties in hearing or being heard when you're addressing the committee, then please let either myself or Councillor Charles know. Thank you, Chair. That concludes the housekeeping.
Thank you. Before we start on agenda item 1, I'd just like to tell you about Elliot Pottinger, who sadly passed away on the weekend, aged just 29. He was an excellent addition to Dave Nevitt's department, and they're all very, very upset about it. And I would like us to have a 1-minute silence in remembrance of Elliot and his young life. Thank you. Dave, on behalf of the committee, I'd like to send our deepest condolences to your department, yourself and his family.
That's much appreciated. Elliot did a great deal in such a short period of time, and a lot of the work that he did was particularly associated with his committee, particularly in terms of Golden Pass and getting older people far more active, and you know, a very challenging role that he encompassed with great enthusiasm and delivered great results in a very short period of time. And as you say, we are all deeply upset to have lost him so early.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Moving on to part 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any, Amy?
Yes, Chair. Apologies received from Councillor Ball and Councillor Payne this evening.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of December 2022. Would you like me to go through it page by page or move on block?
Can I move on block, please, Chair?
Thank you. I'll second that then. Thank you. Agenda item 3, to receive declarations of interest, including whipping declarations. Does anybody have any? No. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Chair. Can I declare a personal interest in relation to agenda item 5, have a family member in receipt of domiciliary care, which is referenced within the report. I have dispensation to speak on this issue from the Standards Committee, and so I won't need to leave the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Anybody else? No? All right, thank you. Agenda item 4 is the report of the Director of Environment and Housing, Leisure Management Contract, Year 10 performance. I believe this is for noting, but Dave, would you like to speak on it? Or is Nick here?
No, I'd very much like to introduce the report if I can.
It was a very good report, Dave, and you've worked extremely hard. It was very pleasant reading.
We are joined this afternoon by Colleen, who's the Regional Director by Legacy, and by Nick Beggs, It's Nick's second day in post as the new contract manager in the Vale of Glamorgan, so I think he's here to observe rather than to comment.
Yeah, I understand he's only been there a few days. Welcome, Nick. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
What I thought may be helpful, Chair, is to give a very brief synopsis of how we've got to where we are, because I appreciate we've got a number of new members on the Scrutiny Committee that haven't been here in previous years. So this will be brief, I do promise, but in 2012, obviously the council contracted out its leisure management service to Parkwood Leisure for a period of 10 years with the option of extending that for a further 5 years. In 2014, that was subcontracted to a company called Legacy Leisure, who are a not-for-profit organisation and part of the Parkwood sort of overall organisation. The advantage of subcontracting to Legacy Leisure was that it provided an opportunity for grants to local organisations, as they are a not-for-profit organisation, and also enabled further savings to be made to the council in terms of NNDR and VAT. In 2022, and some members will be familiar with that, we've now extended the contract. Although I initially said we had the ability to extend it by 5 years, because of COVID, we've actually extended the contract till 2030, and has given us the opportunity to see further investment in our leisure centres. There's work ongoing at the present time, with a lot of work already completed. Obviously, leisure traditionally has a little bit of a bounce in the new year, with people wanting to become fit and active. And I'm delighted to say that we've got new gyms in all of our sites that have been refurbished, that are ready for the challenges that very much lie ahead. Prior to COVID, we were the only leisure centre operation in Wales that was actually generating a revenue surplus. We weren't requiring a subsidy to operate our services in pure revenue terms. I wouldn't pretend that they were profitable in terms of the investment that's needed in terms of capital and on the client side to actually ensure that the services are delivering the aspirations of the local authority. We also had a Welsh audit report in 2020, and you'll see reference to that in the report. It's the only one that's occurred in Wales to date, and raised some queries that we are addressing. Some of the issues that Audit Wales address relate to the Future Generations Act, and one of the challenges we had was the Future Generations Act didn't come into place until 2014, whereas, as I've already stated, our contract was actually set up in 2012. So trying to reply retrospectively has been challenging at certain times in terms of that. If I can move on to the actual report, and I'm sure Colleen may wish to add some bits in due course. If I can draw your attention to the section key issues for consideration, members will note that we are still struggling slightly in terms of getting our attendances up. They are improving by the month. Obviously, we hit an all-time high of 800,000 admissions per annum prior to COVID. This was a significant increase from when Legacy took over the contract in 2012, when admissions were at about 600,000 across all of our sites. I think it's also important to acknowledge post-COVID has been a particularly challenging time for Legacy and for Parkwood. And obviously we were delighted to be able to secure the contract extensions on the terms, and have been working very closely for a number of years. You'll be aware from previous conversations that we've had that we've always viewed our relationship with Legacy stroke Parkwood very much as a partnership, working together in terms of common goals and objectives to increase the physical activity opportunities for the population of the Vale of Glamorgan, and to provide quality facilities that we can all be proud of. And just wandering around the sites over the last few days with the recent refurbishments that have been made to the sites, I can truthfully say in the 20 years that I've been here, I've never seen our leisure centres looking as good as they look at the present time, and I'm really pleased to be able to report that to committee. Moving on, in terms of the report, you will find details of how we are addressing the Welsh audit concerns that were raised. Again, I feel that we're in a strong position to actually do that, again, by working in partnership with Parkwood, who have also taken on the comments that have been made by Welsh Audit Office in the past. The development, or sorry, the appointment of new officers within their team to move the service forward in positive ways, and to ensure that the decisions that we are making are compliant with Future Generation Act requirements that do demonstrate the 5 ways of actually working, and generally just improve the quality of what we're actually able to offer to our consumers, and making sure that, particularly with the cost of living crisis that is ongoing at the moment, that our facilities remain accessible to all. And I think sometimes that's overlooked. And when you look at the number of children that we've got on swimming lessons, you look at the impact that the Summer of Fun had on activities, you look at various other initiatives that we're doing, I think we've got an awful lot to be proud about. Chair, if I could leave it there, obviously I'm happy to answer any questions, but I don't know if Colleen wants to add anything to what I've said.
Welcome, Colleen, to the committee. Is there anything you would like to add to that?
I don't think so, really. Just to say that obviously we're extremely pleased that we have managed to extend our partnership, and we understand the focus on the Health Future Generations Act, and we will be working actively with Dave and his team to make sure that we can evidence some outcomes under those key themes. I think we do a lot at the moment, but the problem is we don't evidence it very well, and we're not very good at shouting about the good work that we do. So that's something that we will very much be doing in the future. Yeah. Post-COVID recovery has been challenging. Recruitment and retention has been a big issue for us in 2021. But I'm pleased to say that we now have a settled staff team in place, and we're looking forward to driving forward in 2023 and getting back to those high participation targets and rates as soon as we possibly can. We will also be commissioning shortly some work with Sheffield Hallam University in looking at the impact of sport and physical activity in the locality, and trying to do some work around what the value of the outcome is in terms of health, social objectives, etc., all of which will feed into being able to evidence what the leisure service does in relation to the future of wellbeing, a future wellbeing, a Future Generations Act. Right, get it right around this time. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Does anybody have any questions or any comments? I'll bring you in now, Neil. I think you've done very, very well indeed, and I'm sure that Neil is going to say the same things. Neil?
Yeah, I am actually. I'm surprised. Audit Wales is quoted as acknowledging that the Vale receive an income from our leisure contract, which when compared to all the other councils is pretty much unique. This is prior to COVID. I'm proud of our relationship with Legacy Leisure and how they performed over the years. Our positive relationship and collegiate approach to running our leisure services gives us the added flexibility to continue to improve the leisure facilities, and this report evidences that, especially with regard to the community mapping and the introduction of the new role of the active community manager, which I think perhaps, Colleen, you may want to make some more comments about. The proposed adaptation and inclusion of the Hengrove approach, which is in the report, will further improve the offer to our residents, and it can certainly be adapted to our needs. Personally, I commend this report. I thank Colleen and her team and Legacy Leisure. I tend not to use it. My wife is in the Penarth one at least 3 times a week, and I'd ask the committee to commend this report likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Selby? Sue?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I agree. As a newly elected councillor, I read the report with interest. I think it's really comprehensive and provides a really helpful picture about some of the challenges that the service has had to respond to. But despite those challenges, the progress that's been made in key areas in terms of serving residents across the Vale. So So thank you for that. I have a couple of queries, if that's okay. So the report obviously makes reference to Audit Wales concerns about the application of the Sustainable Development Principle. Is that relating to future generations' well-being, or is there anything more specific that you can add to the information that David has already helpfully provided, just to help those of us who are newer to this agenda understand the context? And the report also, I think, section 2.7 makes reference to the possibility of re-establishing a Scrutiny leisure working party, which sounds like a great opportunity to get more involved in the good work that's being done. And I just wondered whether you have any ambitions or any idea around timescales for that. Thank you.
Can I take the second question first? Is that all right?
Yep.
In terms of the leisure centre working group, we're obviously very keen for members to come round and have a look at the facilities in their refurbished condition. What I was actually going to suggest with the chairs and vice chairs approval is that we arrange shortly for all members to have the opportunity to visit sites, and from that we re-establish those members that are particularly interested in being part of the sort of working group, whereby what we've traditionally done is sort of visited one centre each quarter, so you get an idea of the progress that we are making and the programme development sort of schedules that are being developed within all of the sites. So again, with the chair's approval, if we could set up a couple of dates, maybe Barry and Penarth in the first instance, which all members would be invited to have a look. There are still some refurbishment works going on. There's spin studios that have still to be completed at both sites, but I'd be keen to do those visits as soon as possible so you can see the work that has been done to date. So again, with Amy's help, we'll try and circulate some dates as soon as possible on those, and we'll entertain you at site if that's okay, and hopefully we'll have the committee from there. In terms of the first question, in terms of well-being of future generations and the compliance with the contract and moving forward in that way, we've detailed a little bit in the report that we're doing, and Neil was quite right to raise the active community manager, which is one of those. And as Colleen mentioned earlier, some of the work we're looking to, or Legacy are looking to commission in terms of actually demonstrating how we are compliant and how the decisions that we have made. The Welsh Audit Office report basically considered two matters: value for money, and as we've mentioned, I think we've more than answered the value for money question in terms of what we're actually delivering in the Vale of Glamorgan. And I think what it's also important to stress when I talk about subsidies, etc., when you look at the actual cost of using our facilities, we're certainly in the sort of medium price range of local authority facilities, and in terms of some of our activities, we're very much at the lower end, particularly key activities such as swimming, in terms of accessing our facilities. So we also keep a very mindful eye on that. And again, our gym memberships are extremely competitive. And when I look at what some of our competitors are charging, or some of the other local authorities that have got trusts or etc. operating their facilities, I can assure you that we are particularly competitive in terms of that. And again, Legacy very much keep an eye on the market in terms of the ability for people to be able to access our services. The last thing we want is to make our services inaccessible, particularly in these difficult times. Moving on in terms of that, we are working with Legacy in terms of more performance indicators as demonstrated or as detailed in the report. And hopefully in future years, as we report on an annual basis on the progress on the contract, you will see the steady improvements that are being made, particularly with reference to future generations and the 5 ways of working. I probably said all I need to say on that. And again, I'm just going to give Colleen the opportunity if there's anything further she wishes to add.
I think you raised the issue of sustainability, and obviously the impact of that's something that we as a business, given obviously the increase in utilities, etc., that we're working hard on to drive down our use of utilities and our target, setting ourselves to reduce our consumption figures for 20% in 2023. We're also looking at how we, both in partnership with the authority and ourselves independently, can invest in much more cost-effective and carbon neutral investments across the leisure centres. So LED lighting, which will bring things down. The council has put the photovoltaic on Cowbridge roof, and we're looking at every opportunity that we can to improve our position in terms of sustainability. We have recently appointed a sustainability manager for the company, and he's working his way around every leisure centre, looking at what opportunities there are to invest, both short-term from ourselves and advising our clients and councils on what could happen in terms of improving the situation. The leisure centres are relatively old. They come with relatively old plant and machinery, but we are keen to reduce our carbon footprint as much as is possible in the coming months and years.
Thank you. Councillor Christine Cave.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to agree with what the previous members have said. It's just a very substantial and comprehensive report, and it does seem that the Audit Office was maybe picking on us a little bit because of our success in a way. But putting that to one side, Dave will always acknowledge, as a user of facilities, of sports facilities, I always think, we've always got challenges facing these particular services, and you've Colleen just spoken about some of them that are coming up for the future. But I do think that one of the things that we should acknowledge is the best advocates for this service are the people that are already using it and those that have used it in the past. And I just wonder how, going forward, we're going to sort of use those people that use the leisure facilities, both now and in the past, how we can use them to advocate to others the benefits of an active lifestyle. I think it's only today that the Health Minister for Wales has said, we need to have a healthier community, so the NHS isn't under such strain. I just wonder how, what's our plans going forward, maybe for the next 12 months.
I think it's a very important point that's raised, and obviously we've seen some initiatives within the centres, some of which Legacy have adopted in terms of sort of Customer of the Month awards, highlighting sort of improvements that customers have made. You'll be aware of some of the sort of stories that have been attracted from people that have been on the NERS scheme that we tried to advertise and try to get out into the press in terms of what has been done. And you're exactly what you say, word of mouth, the positivity in terms of the improvements that could be made, getting the message across that leisure centres are for all, has always been a challenge throughout my career, to be perfectly honest, and getting people to cross the threshold and appreciate that it's not just about fit young people, that we are providing facilities for absolutely everybody. And some people are intimidated in coming into our environment, and we've worked very hard at breaking those barriers down. We've obviously got relationships with health. We mentioned the Golden Pass, which Elliot was instrumental in introducing, which is being copied by other authorities now, as an introduction in terms of getting people across our thresholds. I think we're doing a lot. We can always be doing more. We're looking at customer panels and the introduction of that. Obviously, COVID hasn't helped in that particular situation in terms of inviting people in, and majority of people just want to do their exercise and move on. But with the refurbishments that have been made, the use of social media, I would stress anyone to look at the comments that come in terms of the social media accounts that Legacy operate. There's been an awful lot of positive comments about the new gyms and the refurbishments that have taken place. I think we're doing a lot, but I think there's more that we can be done, and I very much take the points that have been raised on board. And again, I'm going to defer to Colleen if there's anything else she wishes to add.
And I think we can very much be busy in doing the good work and not speaking about the good work, and that's something that we will very much focus on, and the active community managers will have a role in. And we're going to be, I think, to be able to evidence, particularly against the Act, to work on case studies, so we can follow a group or an individual or an activity from its inception through to its implementation, and actually look at the outcomes and not just the numbers of people, but actually what difference it's made to their health or to their social well-being or their physical or mental health and well-being, and actually start to ask people to engage with us in developing some case studies, because I think those are the most powerful messages that we can, and then we can share those through our social media platforms. We can share them through, you know, your outcomes. We can share them with the Welsh Audit Office and anybody else that we're keen to communicate with. And I think those are the most powerful ones. I certainly in my history, I remember a long time ago, when I was a very young development worker in Bristol, we did an International Women's Day, and a young lady came along and learned to sail. And about 6 years later, we received a letter from her, and she just circumnavigated the globe based upon the one activity that she'd done with us for a week. So you know, those sorts of messages and those sorts of stories really, I think, elevate and draw pictures in people's minds rather than words. And I think that's what we need to do to really get that message across.
Excellent, thank you. It's a pity the audit didn't take up the opportunity of our invitation to invite them here today, and because I think we are a leading light in leisure services. So I'd like to bring in Councillor Gwyn John.
Chair, would you take Councillor Thomas first? I'd just like to come in last, actually. Thank you.
Neil?
Yeah, I was going to actually formally move that we note and commend this report, both. But that was it.
Okay, Gwyn?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'm absolutely delighted to be part of this setup, basically, because I was the cabinet member that signed over the very first contract with Councillor Moore to Parkwood. And some years later, I've had a 5-year gap in between, but I've come back to sign over the extension. I'm delighted to be working with Parkwood Legacy. Quite honestly, it has been a great opportunity for this council when we went over to Parkwood in the first place, because quite honestly, I don't think today, had we not done so, we wouldn't have 4 leisure centres in the Vale. We probably would have lost 2 of those leisure centres because we couldn't afford to keep them.
That's true.
And unlike some councils in Wales, we're keeping our facilities at top marks, because some councils this winter have closed their swimming pools simply because they can't afford to keep them. So working in partnership with Parkwood Legacy, we've done so much over the years together. And I have full confidence in working with the team in the future years. I've always been someone who was always encouraged to exercise, keeping fit, and quite simply, we should be all doing this, whatever age we are. So please, anyone out there that thinks, well, it's not for me, these new gyms, you know, they're absolutely superb. And down at Lantwood Major, we were the first to be completed. And quite simply, our membership has gone up over 100 over the Christmas period, which is absolutely wonderful. So I was delighted to see that these new gyms have come forward now and really are in superb. And please, I look forward to joining you when you come to the leisure centres, because then you'll see for yourself what a good team we are together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Gwyn. Well, I don't think there's anything else I can add to that, to be quite honest, to everything everybody else has said. Well done, Dave and your team. Please go back and tell them how proud we are of you all and the work that you're doing. And I'm sure you've got better things to do now, Dave, than with everything that's going on in your department at the moment with sad loss. So if you need to exit, please feel free to do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Which
If I
moves
may,
us.
Chair, If I may, Chair, obviously Councillor Thomas has moved to
Yeah,
note
the
and recommend the
recommendations.
report.
Yeah, yeah, it was just going on to the recommendations. There are three.
Can I second them?
Thank
Okay,
you.
you
Yeah,
don't want me to read them
second.
out? 3 recommendations. Yeah, thank you. Now moving on then to agenda report for noting, and there are recommendations. So would somebody
If
like
I-
to?
Sorry,
Kath?
if I may, Chair, can I just confirm if Councillor Lloyd Selby is staying in the meeting for this item or withdrawing?
I'm
She's
staying in the meeting.
Lovely, thank
She's
you.
staying.
Just check. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cass, would you like to take us through the report? Have you got anything you'd like to share with us on the report?
Thank you very much. Yes, if I can give you an overview, that would be great. Just a quick some of the headlines relating to the regional partnership board's annual report and the work that we do as a partnership. So just as a quick introduction, if I may, my role is working on behalf of the 2 councils and the health board and our wider partners in the third sector and the independent sector to coordinate how we work together so that we can improve services for people and develop services that are joined up so people don't feel the gaps between organisations. And I've also worked very closely with colleagues who are on the call, so Lance and Rachel and Suzanne who lead the operational services in the Vale that I work very, very closely with. And of course, recently Councillor Eddie Williams, who's also on the call tonight, is now the chair of our regional partnership board. So there's a real leading role for the Vale of Glamorgan at the moment. So, of course, just to orientate members that are new to the committee and perhaps new to the idea of the regional partnership board, really it's the way we describe all of the work that we do in partnership. You can't knock on the door of the RPB; it doesn't exist as such. The regional partnership board is all of us. It's how we work together to improve services. From a governance point of view, it is a quarterly meeting and Councillor Eddie Williams is now the chair. But actually what's more important is that day-to-day working that we do together across the partnership to improve services, health and care services for the people in the Vale of Glamorgan. The report provides a summary of the work that we've done in partnership over the last year, and in particular a focus on the work that's happened in the Vale of Glamorgan. It doesn't cover all of the amazing things that the council does individually as a local authority, but the work that the council does specifically in partnership. So if you think there's things missing in there that you're aware the council has done, it's probably because it's work that the council's done in its individual role. So bit of context, I suppose. I mean, this year, and I really don't need to emphasise this to you and to this committee, but the crisis in the NHS and social care system and beyond has been hugely profound, and it's challenged some of the basic assumptions about the care and support that we expect to receive when we need it. And working together to keep people safe and independent has never been more important or necessary. I think it's not something any single organisation can solve on their own. Working together has been so critical, and we see that day in day out now. So hopefully you'll have had the opportunity to read the Scrutiny report and the RPB's annual report. I'll give a few headlines as to what we've achieved and some of the challenges that we've had to work through over the last year. But the report itself is a real read. Actually, it's really heartening in these really tough times just to remind ourselves what actually we have achieved by working together, and to keep the faith about achieving better things for our citizens. So, of course, what's underpinning everything we do is the continuing impact of COVID-19 and in particular now the cost of living crisis. For the Vale and for our services right across the region, it's had a really pervasive impact on domiciliary care in particular. And domiciliary care is, I don't need to tell you, is the bedrock of integrated health and social care services. We can't hope to keep people healthy, well and independent without that direct care and support at home. So that ability to recruit and retain those hugely valuable domiciliary care workers has a really powerful impact, actually. In the last year, the Welsh Government has announced new funding arrangements. So they have brought in something called the Regional Integration Fund. It's given us, on the one hand, a really positive it's had a really positive aspect in that it's a 5-year funding stream, so we can start to do that much longer term funding commitments. The strings that come attached to that funding commitment is that there is an expectation that over that period, the Welsh Government funding tapers away, and as we develop our new care models and new ways of working that hopefully are better than our current ways of working, that we replace that with local investment. So once we've proved that the new way is hopefully the better way, then that becomes there's a requirement then that we start to replace the Welsh Government funding with our local investment. In the Vale in particular, we've focused this year on developing our wellbeing matters service. That again is really foundational to getting people into the right part of the health and care system at the right time, really making sure that they get information to the right advice and guidance so that they can support themselves if possible. But if they do need that support, that we make sure that they get into the right part of our health and care system and they get a joined up response. There's also been new capital funding coming into the Regional Partnership Board. So that's going to enable us to develop housing related care and support. And there's also a big focus on the development of integrated health and wellbeing centres and hubs. And most of you will be very familiar with the existing programme that we've got around that as a partnership to develop health and wellbeing centres and wellbeing hubs so that they're much closer to home and closer to communities. We've also, over the last year, undertaken 2 major pieces of work to really understand our need. We've been required to produce something called a market stability report that sets out how sufficient and stable the care market is. That's been led by our Regional Commissioning Board, which is part of the Regional Partnership Board, and Lance leads that. And there's a summary of the findings. It's a nice illustration within the report that gives you an overview of the findings from that market stability report covering both adults and children's services. So that it provides really important context to what we've got available to us to support people's care and support needs. And then we've had to do a population needs assessment, which is required both of these pieces of work are required every 5 years to really understand what are the needs of our local population and how is that changing, and to make sure that then we orientate our plans and work as a partnership to meeting the needs of that population. So we've delivered those 2 major pieces of work, and that will feed into the development of our next joint area plan, which will set out our plan for the next 5 years, which we're working up at the moment as a partnership. Just to give a note on winter and winter planning together, we've had no additional Welsh Government funding this year to support the additional demand that comes out of winter. So we have lined up some of the funding that we have through the Regional Partnership Board to support that additional capacity that we need. And we've used that to create additional community bed capacity, reablement capacity, some really innovative work led by the council around a fall service, so that people get a proportionate response if they have a fall. And we've also, it's challenged us to work much more innovatively. So roles like trusted assessors have become a really important way of working. So our assessors within our community teams are reaching into the hospitals to help get people home again as effectively as we possibly can. The RPB covers an absolutely vast programme, so I just want to give you a flavour of the kind of things we cover. We chunk the work of the RPB into 3 life stage themes. So we have themes around starting well, living well, and ageing well, and the purpose of doing that is really to emphasise the fact that no one organisation or one profession can enable a child, for instance, to start well in the Vale of Glamorgan, it takes a whole range of things, and you know, your previous speakers just really emphasise that actually so much of what enables somebody to start well or to live well or to age well is nothing to do with health and social services. Actually, it's to do with the way they live and the opportunities they have. But the focus of the RPB is on health and care services. So just a flavour of some of the things we've been doing around those themes. So for starting well, for children and young people and their families, we've been working across the region to develop a joint recovery service. We have a real issue with children hitting severe emotional distress and needing the support of lots of agencies to be able to recover. And it's been we've identified that it's been a gap in service, and children have ended up in hospital unnecessarily. So we've been working very closely together to put that in place for the region, where we can really support the children to recover and get back to being a child or a young person. Another example is really getting in early with families, the early help team and the West Key GP service working together to get in early. In the Living Well theme, we've done work over the last year to create a charter for unpaid carers, which the Vale of Glamorgan Council has adopted, really setting out what we expect unpaid carers should be able to access, and to really emphasise the value of their role and their critical nature of unpaid carers in keeping people healthy, well and independent. A lot of work around people with learning disabilities, the development of a smart house, which creates a really good environment and technology for independent living. And there's a really super video actually embedded within the report about two colleagues, Stacey and Joanna, who are people with learning disabilities that we employ directly, who work with us to get our services right, because they are, you know, they are the ones who know what needs to be the way that we need to deliver our services. And then finally, on the Ageing Well theme, there's a vast array of work that we're doing together. A lot of work around getting services right for people with dementia and memory assessment services, and the team around the individual and their family, to make sure that access to dementia diagnosis and the care and support that follows on is joined up and person-centred. And then our at-home programme, which is all about how do we develop community-based, joined up health and care services working together to keep people independent and supported at home. Finally, in the report, there's a little bit of a forward look. So we in our annual report, we look back as to what we've done, but also where we're going. There's a real balance, more now than there has ever been, I think, around how we work together as a partnership around the immediate crisis that we're facing, and I see day in, day out our teams from the executive directors downwards working together, working absolutely hand in glove to address the crisis that we're currently facing. It's really driving some very innovative work, and you know, it has really helped us leapfrog in terms of that partnership working, and then of course balancing that with the longer term work. So it's very tempting to keep focused on the here and now, and of course that all efforts are going into that, but we also have to have an eye to the future and how we continue to develop and integrate our services to support people and their families. We do a lot of work with Welsh Government to try and influence the policy in this arena, sometimes with greater success than others, but we do work very, very closely. The chairs of the Regional Partnership boards across Wales and my equivalents work very closely with Welsh Government to try and help get that right, and particularly some of the policy landscape. There's a lot of policy in the field of out of hospital community-based services, which doesn't always line up. So we're doing a lot of work to try and line that up so it makes sense to us locally. I would encourage you to scan the report if you haven't. It is really heartening to see what we've achieved as partnerships. Some links to some great short films and some nice illustrations that really bring the work of the partnership to life. And I think I'd just finish by saying that working in partnership is in equal measures hard, it's frustrating, but it's hugely rewarding as well when we see it pay off for the people that we're there to support. And it has to be the right thing to do if we're starting with a person and we're working backwards from there rather than starting with our organisations. So thank you for your time, and I'm more than happy to follow up with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a wonderful report from yourself. It does seem to me that a lot of progress has been made over the last 12 months. Well done to the department, and I can understand how you feel about achieving this and dealing with people directly and seeing the results. Would anybody else like to ask any questions? No? In that case, there are. Sorry, Neil.
Sorry. Yeah, Janice, I was waiting to see if anybody else was going to come off first.
Yeah,
I'll let Susan go first if that's okay with you.
Sure. Sue.
Yeah, so thank you, and thank you, Kath, for providing such a comprehensive report, which I've read with interest, and really appreciated the video links. Great to hear the voices of people direct who are benefiting from the work that's being done in partnership. And I know from experience that when times are hard and pressures arise, it can be really difficult for health and social services to work together in partnership. It can often be the first thing that falls by the wayside. So just commend all those involved really for, continuing to work together. And we need that partnership now more than ever, given the pressures, the incredible pressures that we see health and social care services are facing. If I may, I just wanted to say I was really interested in the innovative work that's being done with St John's. I know it's early days, and it'll be really interesting in the future to see the impact that's having. Just to share one anecdote, that I'm an informal carer for an elderly neighbour who's had a number of falls that have always resulted in a hospital admission. And when I got the telecare call just before Christmas this time, she'd been assessed by St John's, and that meant that she was able to stay home, whereas previous falls have always immediately resulted in admission. So, for me, I'm really delighted to have seen that firsthand, the difference that's making to somebody who can stay in their own home and continue to receive care instead of having that disruption. So I just want to commend the board for being able to move into innovative practice despite the enormous pressures, that they're still that proactive, creative, reaching for solutions. And as I say, I recognise it's very early days, but it would be really interesting at some point to hear about the impact that's having. And also, I'd be really interested to understand more. I'm not expecting an answer to this now, but I'd be really interested to understand more about St John's capacity, because I imagine they've been quite busy in terms of some of the calls they're getting. But thank you.
You're on mute, Councillor Charles.
Yeah, I think that when we discussed St John's before, it was said that there are quite a few people that were really enamoured with the service and really thrilled to bits about it. Neil?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Kath, for the report. And like Susan, I've read it and followed many of the hyperlinks. And yeah, some of them are great. I mean, Stacey and Joanna's stories are heartwarming, apart from anything else. And to see people making positive contributions to our efforts from a position of knowledge and lived experience is crucial. We do have an ongoing problem nationally across the board, across the UK, with care and the lack of carers in terms of paid carers and so on, and the consequence of Brexit with losing so many of the people who used to be employed in that they were Europeans, and many of them have returned home, understandably, and that's creating pressures and struggles of its own kind. And yes, we do need to work creatively together. The health board, and local authorities to try and fix it, because it is a problem. You mentioned within a question though that I do have. You mentioned within the report under 2.12 RPP capital funding, schemes in various stages of development, including provision of people with physical disabilities and the development of integrated health and wellbeing centre at Barry, and the wellbeing hub in Penarth. Now, my concern as a Penarth councillor is the fact that we have gone from, in very short order, gone from 4 surgeries to 2, and one of the ambitions is to open the new wellbeing hub in Cogan, which is planned to replace the third closing surgery that we've got coming up. And I'm just wondering about the progress on that, where the sticking points are, and how that can be moved on in short order, because there are considerable concerns within the Penarth community about medical provision. Thank you.
I don't have the detailed response for you, but I'm certainly able to get that for you from the health board, and unless Lance has anything more up to date. I think there's been some progress fairly recently, and I think there's a cabinet report being pulled together and due at cabinet very shortly to hopefully get that over the line and resolved. I don't know whether Lance has any more recent information on that. Otherwise, I can certainly get the information for the committee and submit it to you. Or Suzanne, actually.
But I can see Dave and Suzanne have both put their hands up, so I think they'll probably have the latest. So,
excellent, thank you.
It's probably best to hand to them. Thanks, Kev.
Thanks.
Dave, do you want to go next?
Just to add that a cabinet report is being prepared at the moment. We're waiting for some further information from the health board so that we can actually complete that report, and hopefully we'll be able to have something in the system fairly shortly, which will give members an indication of the routes that we're looking to take.
Thank you, Dave. Councillor Julie Lynch-Wilson.
Sorry,
Can't hear you, Julie.
Sorry, my mic was switching on and off. Just comment on the report. It was extremely interesting. I work in social care, so anything with information to do with social care is of great interest to me. I have to comment, we're very lucky we've kept our Europeans. They've all got British citizenship, so we're very, very lucky. And also that people seem to forget that COVID hasn't left us. We have COVID in our home at the moment, plus flu. So it's very challenging, and without the support that we receive from the Vale Council and obviously the board and the we would be really struggling. We have moral and actual support, and it's very important all the way through, and it's been very important to us. We've, like I said, would be very difficult without knowing that there are people you can go to. And another comment on the on St John's, because we very often have hospital transport by St John's, and they are always so professional, and they do such a fantastic job. I can see why their role would be extended, and that's just my only comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lynch-Wilson. Suzanne, did you want to come in? No?
No, thanks, Chair. Nothing further to add than what Dave has already shared. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Caris Stallard. Yeah. Hi, Caris.
Hi, I've just got a quick question. I'm hoping somebody on this call will be able to answer. There's a lady in my ward who takes carers from Bridgend, unpaid carers, on wellbeing walks up on Castle Down, and she's been trying to offer the same to unpaid carers in the Vale, but she can't seem to find an umbrella group or a support group in order to, reach more than a handful of them at the same time. So I was just wondering if there is any sort of umbrella group for unpaid carers in the Vale.
Lance?
I think the best person probably to contact at the moment would be Natasha James, who's our operational manager, who has carers within her remit, and she'd be able to direct it, because there probably isn't just a single answer to that query. If you want, Councillor, if you want to send it to me, I can send it on to Natasha James. I'm happy to do that.
Thanks.
So, whilst I'm speaking, Councillor, can I just respond to the issues that Councillor Lynch Wilson just with a couple of queries? I'm conscious that St John's Ambulance has come up a number of times, and I just wanted to remind committee that it came as part of a telecare report. It was kind of hidden down in the bottom of the report because it was something we were going to do. We will come back a year after, I think was the plan, with that telecare report reporting on progress. So it's really good to hear those stories of what's happening though. So thank you. But I just want to assure you that you will get something further back. And I suppose just in terms of Councillor Lynch Wilson's report of the support that her organisation had from the Vale of Glamorgan during COVID, I thought committee members would be keen to hear that Care Forum Wales gave Vale of Glamorgan Social Services an award for the support that they've received during COVID, and they followed that up with, "We've never given a local authority an award before." So I think that's quite nice, and I think probably having that from your peers, I guess, is really important to us, and it's been really well received by colleagues who have been working in the PPE team, colleagues who are working in our care homes, and colleagues who are working in that commissioning sector, who were providing that support to them. So I just thought it was a nice thing to mention. I wouldn't have had an excuse to mention it otherwise. So thank you.
Well done, Lance. Yeah, we're all very proud. Councillor Julie Lynch Wilson, did you want to come back in?
Just to say that I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised you won an award. I really am not. I mean, obviously, I know care workers who work in England, and they just wanted to come over here. That's basically, they just did.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, please send them over.
I was going to say, we can take them, can't we?
Yeah, thank you. Well, as you said, Kath Doman, it is a very heartening thing to have heard everything today, and things in the report, etc. So congratulations to the team from all of us as well. And if I could give you an award, I would. But thank you all very much indeed anyway, which takes us on to agenda item 6. I don't have any items, you'll be pleased to know. And no part 2 items either. So my turn to say Happy New Year, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless you all, and see you all again soon.
Chair, are you happy to move the recommendations as per the report?
Oh, of course, yes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you.
Good
Happy
night.
New Year, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.